Welcome to Tales on the Towpath, the podcast where every mile tells a story.
We're two runners who spend a lot of time out here on the C&O Canal towpath, talking about training, racing, and everything that happens between the miles.
From early morning runs to the stories that keep us moving.
This is where endurance meets inspiration, one step, one tail at a time.
So lace up and join us on the path, because every trail has a story, and this one's ours.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam Lowe.
And I'm Chris Earl.
I'm Katie Lowe.
Well, hey, guys, we are here with two of West Virginia's finest runners, ultra runners. They do a lot of volunteer work as well. I know I'm extremely excited to talk to Alisha and Donald today. They just got back from Cocodona a couple weeks ago, so we're going to talk about that near the end. But Katie, why don't you tell our listeners how we got to know Alisha and Donald?
Well, I can tell you about the first time I met Donald. I remember it like it was yesterday. Adam was running the Frederick Run Fest, and he was running the half marathon, and that was the first year that I went there. I think that might have been the first time I ever went to a race, and I ran the Twilight 5K with him, and he was running the half marathon the next day doing the nut job, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. Now, Adam's running along with somebody, and I see him at this turn, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Katie," whatever greetings he gave, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, and this is Travis." And I was like, "Hi, Travis, go guys," whatever. So they went along, they kept running, and then I go to the next spot, meet him. At the end of the race, Adam's like, "Oh, yeah, I ran with him for a while, but after I introduced you to Travis, he said, hey, man, like, that's cool and everything, but my name's Donald." So I don't, Adam, I
So,
don't know what your explanation is for that, but
well, Donald and I had a mutual friend, Travis, right? And I thought
Yeah.
I got him confused. I'm being honest. I don't know that I'd ever met him in person, either one of them. And I just looked at him and said, that looks like Travis, so it's got to be him. So I was
I
confident when I yelled his name to you that it was Travis and not Donald.
And I just love that Donald just corrected you because honestly, if that had been me and somebody had said, "Hey, this is so and so," I would have been like, "Yep, that's my name from here on out." I don't know when it would have come out, but I just would have been that name for the rest of eternity to that person. But then I don't know how we got connected with them after that, Donald and Alicia on Instagram and like chatted back and forth. But Alicia is the reason that Adam and I were sitting on the beach drinking Trulies and decided to sign up for Miners Lady the first year because she was saying how she was coming to the area and we should get together for lunch or something if we could fit it in the schedule. And we're like, "Oh yeah, definitely." And then next thing you know, Adam's looking up the race and we get on the wait list. 2 days, 3 days before the race, we actually got let in. So then we start making plans with this technically a stranger, Alicia, that we're just gonna show up to whatever Airbnb she's staying in, and we're gonna give her a ride to the start line because they wanted everybody to carpool. And, that just seemed as normal as could be.
It is normal. That's what ultra running's all about.
Yeah, I guess this community.
I couldn't believe that Katie just wanted to pull up to, and I remember that house had the steepest, weirdest driveway, and we pulled up there and picked you up, and that was that, right? So why don't Alicia? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first? So who are you outside of running?
Uh, That's a great question because I'm not super interesting inside or outside of running. I just really enjoy the running. Married to Donald. We both love the outdoors, like to hike, run, kayak, and we have 8 cats, which I've said hello to on the Cocodona live stream. My glory, and I've just set the bar so low for everybody on live streams that but I love my cats. We love our 8 cats. And we just love the outdoors. I don't know. There's not much to me. just live in Clarksburg, West Virginia. Well, Mount Clair, West Virginia, but we're in north central West Virginia, which we've found to be a really great place to visit other places in West Virginia because we're only 2 to 3 hours from Harper's Ferry or New River Gorge, or if we want to go to PA, Maryland, Virginia, Ohio, we're just such in a good central location. We can go do outdoorsy things in different places. So that's me.
Donald, would you like to share anything about who you are outside of running?
She kind of hit the nail on the head. Everything she said, except I'm married to Alisha.
Not married to yourself.
Not married to myself. I'm married to Alisha. Running's really gave me a lot. There's not too much outside of that. And I always kind of, while she was talking, I was kind of laughing. There's a lot of our friends that we've never seen not in running clothes, and you see them in jeans or something. It's like, well, who's that guy? But no, just running's really gave me a lot back, and really appreciate it.
It's very easy to get people confused, isn't it, Donald? I know I can.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because if
Hey.
you see a picture of Donald and Travis standing next to each other, never will you make the mistake again of who is who.
Right, I know. Hey,
Oh, we look
I think-
same.
No, not even close.
Not
Not even close.
Alisha, do you know when in the live stream you were on talking about your cats?
I was on the live stream quite a bit, apparently.
4 times.
I was on there.
Okay.
Was I on there 4 times? I was on there the first aid station, 7 miles in. So I'm not even supposed to be delirious or getting crazy or be like, I should not be exerted, but I just freeze on camera. And I was with another woman on the East Coast, and they were like, do you guys want to be, and we didn't even know each other. They just asked us, do you want to be on the live stream and say hello to people? And we're like, yeah, absolutely, sure. We're just super excited to be here. And he interviews us, and she goes first and says hi to her chihuahua. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I want to say hi to my pets too. So I say hi to my 8 cats, screw all of my crew who is there, that I wish if I could relive and do one thing better, it would be say hi my crew on the live stream. But no, we said hi to the cats at home that are definitely not watching the live stream. So I was on the live stream at mile 7. And then apparently they showed me from the drone in the air quite a bit and mistook me for Pam Reed.
Yep.
Which I'll take that as a compliment, because if anyone knows Pam Reed, she's a badass in ultra running and has done so many things, but is also like in her 70s. So I'm unsure how we got. That's fine. That's fine. And then in Sedona, there was a drone that followed my pacer and I turned around and waved, and I think they brought up my ultra sign up.
Yep. So whoever was emceeing at that time brought up her ultra sign up and talked about a couple of things she's done. Noted that it was her first over 200 miler and all that.
And that was pretty cool, because that was just good motivation to keep climbing up this hill in Sedona to Schnebly Hill. And then at the last aid station, Trinity, I was on the live stream for a very long time, and I thought I was very with it. And looking back, I was very exhausted looking, but I had a good conversation with the dude who was from Maryland. And then, of course, at the finish.
That's awesome. If we could back up a second, what actually got you into ultra running though?
So I think it was about 6 years ago, I happened across a documentary from Moab 240, and I didn't know anything. I was training for my first marathon, Eugene, and I didn't know anything about ultra running, and just happened across that documentary, watched it, and was just mesmerized with people in the desert doing 200 miles. And I was like, that's so cool. I want to do that. And then fast forward to 2020, when I met Donald, and I met a real live person who had done a 50 miler. He had done a couple ultras, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. I want to do an ultra too. I would love to do a 200 one day. And he really motivated me to get into ultras, which my first ultra was Labor Pain's 12-hour endurance race up in PA.
Yep.
To train for JFK 50 miler. But I didn't know the importance of a 50 miler, and I ended up getting 45 miles at Labor Pains and had plenty of time to go out for one more loop. But I was like having a great day, and I was like, I'm good with 45. This is great. This is fine. And so just got the ultra bug and just kept on doing ultras just so I can get to 100, so I could get to a 200.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been following you and Donald on both Instagram and on Strava now for a little while. And, I've been fascinated by the number of ultras and 50s and hundreds that you all have done. But what really got you motivated to want to do the big jump up to 250 and to do Cocodona? And not only finish, but to finish and break the 5-day barrier in 119 hours, 18 minutes, and 3 seconds. That's so impressive.
That documentary was like super mesmerizing for me. I was like, that sounds cool. But the more I did ultras, the more I learned about the different races that are even out there. And of course, when I did my first 100, I was like, I'm not meant to do this. I like what everyone thinks when they do an ultra is that it sucks and we're retiring and I'm never doing it again. And then, of course, 3 days later, you're on ultra signing up for another one. But I had over at 2020, they did Cocodona had its first year. I think it was 2020 or 2021. They had their first year and they had the race briefing all online and on YouTube. And I watched the entire thing and it just sounded like such an interesting race, all the towns it went through. So I kind of followed the Cocodona for a few years to see how it was going to do. And then I knew more people doing the race. Last year, Dan Green, my friend Emily Flynn did it last year and she ended up crewing me. And Sarah Wallace, another friend. I knew a ton of people doing Cocodona and they had such a good experience that it left a good impression on me. I was like, okay, well, they had a good time. Maybe it's just time for me to go ahead and sign up. So that just seemed like such a good environment for first 200.
It sounds like a little bit of peer pressure, if you ask me. But Katie has been saying this. I'm gonna mess it up, so you got to help me out. Katie's been saying this for the last like 2 weeks now. She keeps saying something like, "Your friends are your friends." Okay, correct me, Katie. What do you say?
Say you are who you run with.
Yeah. Okay. I knew I would mess it up. Right? You are who you run with. So you were inspired by all those people who were doing 200 pluses, and that's awesome. Of course, I have a question that's not on the list for you because that's what I do. So my question is, how did you prepare for something like this? Like logistically, like obviously you had to pack, you had to, get an Airbnb over there, rent a van. I don't know. You tell us, like, how did you manage those logistics?
The logistics were really tough. I mean, there's the training, of course, and then there's the training logistics. So my training didn't look too much different from a 100-miler, honestly. With mileage, I didn't want to overtrain for it because it's better to go in undertrained, I think, or at least what I was told. But I had to train with a heavy pack because there's required gear. In the first 37 miles, you have to carry 4 liters of water at minimum. We had a really cool year, so we were able to get away with less water, but you're required to have required gear. So I have to get used to carrying a heavier pack, and that's like 12 to 20 pounds depending on the section. So when I had all of my 5 liters of water and all my feed and required gear, I had close to 20 pounds, which is a lot to carry going up the mountain and then training on rocky terrain. But the logistics of it's a point to point race. So we ended up getting 3 different Airbnbs, one in Black Canyon City, one in Prescott, and one in Flagstaff. And since this is my first time doing a 200, I had no idea where I was going to be at in the race. I could pace plan all I wanted, but you never know what's going to happen throughout the week. So I had to think, okay, well, I don't want my crew to be out of an Airbnb and I'm still in this location. So I had to overlap Airbnbs. We had to do 2 vehicles. That was the smartest move. A lot of people had Sprinter vans. That was like their move, but Donald can tell you more. We did a really big SUV, which they seemed to really like. And that was set up in the back. We had just when we got to Phoenix, got a bunch of stuff from Walmart and made a bed set up in the back. I had all my gear and clothes and food, nutrition all set up in the back. So whenever I got to a cruise station, it was already ready to go. And then we had a second vehicle for crew to go back and forth from the Airbnb, or if someone stayed behind to sleep, they had a vehicle and then transporting their own bags too. So there was a lot of logistics, but I was really lucky to have friends that had done it before. My friend Emily Flynn, who was on my crew, she had done it before. She's crewed it before. She's done Sedona 125. She was a wealth of knowledge, so she helped out a lot with logistics too.
How big was your crew?
We had 4 people, so Donald, and then we had Emily Flynn. She had done it before. She's done 200s. And then we had Jesse Smith. He's done quite a few hundreds. And then Amy Doro, she's done Rim to River, and she's doing 100 actually this coming up weekend. So what really helped was everyone was an ultra runner and really familiar with the environment and really enjoyed the environment.
So before the race even started, what was your mindset heading into the race? What were you thinking about going in? How did you mentally prepare yourself for something this big? I know for me personally, like when I'm headed into a big race, like that week before the race, Monday, I'm okay. Tuesday, I'm starting to get a little anxious. By Thursday or Friday, my wife is like, I wish this race would just happen because I'm tired of dealing with you, right? Like, because I just get a little nervous and everything's got me set off. For me, that's only a 1 day event, right? Like, and you're going into 250 miles, which is, it's going to be, you're going to be out there a while. So what were you thinking about in that week leading up?
I was definitely nervous. I think I was, of course, worried that I didn't prepare enough. Like, did I train enough? Had taper tantrums for sure. Not so much on less mileage, but like feeling like, am I going to get too less of mileage and not be ready to run by the time the race starts? And then, of course, I'm worried about all the gear and packing all the gear. And oh my gosh, I have to work, but also pack 2 check bags and carry-ons full of gear and hope it makes it on the plane to Phoenix, which everything did, thank gosh. So there was a lot of nerves preparing more so for the race and making sure I was prepared. Mentally, I was just ready to go. I think I was just ready to get on the start line because I know that once the gun goes off, I feel a lot better just to get going and get running. I get really quiet right before a race, so the couple days leading before, my friend Jesse said that he's never seen me like that before for a race. Like I was really quiet and just he could tell I was really nervous because it was my first 200, so I felt like, man, do I belong here? I do not feel like I belong here. I feel like I'm here by accident.
Well, considering this is a really long race, why don't we break it down so that you don't just have a open forum to talk about 250 miles? How did you feel early on, let's say in the first 50 miles of the race?
I definitely felt really good getting started. My game plan for getting to Crown King because it's the toughest section. It's got about 10,000 feet of gain and it's the most technical section. So getting to Crown King, where I see my crew for the first time, I wanted to be really conservative. I do regret being a little farther back because it got backlogged going up the trail. So you kind of get a little farther behind and you're just kind of standing in line waiting to get up the hill. But getting going made me feel a lot better because it just feels good to run and like you're okay, now we're doing this. And it was a lot of fun doing the first 37 because I like to I'm a very social runner. I really like clinging on to people and getting to know people and be like, "Hey, what's your name? What are you doing here?" And it was really cool getting to talk to others. I met a guy that was doing a charity bib and he did it for veterans. And I met Robbie from the cutoff. I ran a few miles with him and asked people advice like, how many times have you run this? And what tips do you have? Because it kind of put my mind at ease and linking up with other runners because we're all going through it. And it's kind of nice to suffer with somebody else. And it helped keep me from going too fast as well. So I did that first Crown King section in about the time that I wanted. I think about half an hour.
Did you beat pace?
Yeah, I did about my plan B pace. So I got to Crown King before sunset, which was very, very conservative, but saved my legs for later.
At that point, did you get in the back of the SUV and sleep for a certain amount of time? Or like, did you have a planned, I'm going to do 40 miles, sleep for 6 hours, do 50 miles tomorrow, sleep? What was your plan like from,
Oh,
I
I
guess, as
wish.
far as that goes? Oh, okay.
Okay. I wish I had a sleep plan. It's really hard. So you see your crew the first time at Crown King, that's mile 37-ish. And then you don't get to see them again until
75.
75.
Hero.
So if I get to when I left Crown King, it was starting to be sunset. So I wouldn't see crew until the next day. So that means I was entering my first night. So it's a pretty big gap without crew. So I went into the night and I was able to link up with some other women that were holding a really good pace throughout the night. And my goal was to get to Camp Kippa, and there was a sleep station there. It was like a boys camp, and they had a mess hall for where drop bags and food was. And then they had bunk houses where they were providing beds for runners to take a nap in. So I took my first nap there, set an alarm for an hour, and woke up and had the best hour of sleep of my life at Camp Kippa, because the grind, it was the most humbling 60 miles of my life getting to that aid station. It was in the dark, really rocky and technical, and a lot of vert getting up to that section. So it was a really good night's sleep, and then got me down to Whiskey Row in pretty good time to see my crew for the second time. So after that, it was kind of sporadic on how I slept. Donald could probably talk better to that, but most of the time, other than Mingus, I slept in the vehicle that we had, which was probably the best call. And I had like a sleep setup, like earplugs, face mask, if it was during the day to block the light out. And we had like a foam pad in the back I could crawl into.
Donald, during when she was running, like from the beginning to mile 37, and then after that to mile 70, what were you doing? I would imagine you were like
Not sleeping
play,
like you should have been.
playing cards or something,
Same.
talking to other crew members. What were you guys doing?
So after she went off the starting line, we went back and kind of got a game plan together. We had plenty of time, but everybody was just kind of nervous. It was 5 a.m, but we tried to lay back down, but we didn't very much. Everybody just kind of nervous, trying to figure out what we're going to do. We kind of got a little bit of game plan together. Basically, I would tend to Alisha, and then whatever she needed, and then Jesse would pack her hydration pack. Trying to just kind of got to get a little bit of a game plan together. And
You guys did a run and
yeah, we did a run. We did end up doing a run. Yeah, we did about a 4 or 5 mile run. We did do that. That's the only time we ran though. I pretty much just paced and was stressed the entire time. The whole week, anything I could do was worry about her. I couldn't do anything else. I had a couple text chains going, and it took everything I had to like focus and be like, okay, here's how the day went. It's kind of rough, but yeah, well, we were just planning and prepping. Crown King, at Crown King, you have to get released to go there. So we went there in plenty of time. It's at Bumblebee Ranch, and we made the choice that Jesse, who was pacing first, would end up going to the next Airbnb with all of our bags, because we had 5 people total, so we had a lot of luggage and stuff. So we put all the luggage in the second vehicle. So he went to Bumblebee Ranch with us, and then when your runner gets to a certain point, they release you. And so we hung out at Bumblebee Ranch for probably about an hour and a half, talking to other crews and
Tara Dower. They met Tara Dower.
met Tara Dower there. That's pretty cool. That was the one person that Amy wanted to meet, and Jesse just kind of casually was like, "Hey, you want to meet Tara Dower?" And Amy was like, "Yeah, I definitely do." And he's like, "Well, she's right there." So we went over to talk to her a couple minutes. That was cool. But we got released, and then it's a 22-mile drive up a rock road to Crown King. And it is, I'm from the country, so I'm used to driving rock roads, but there's a lot of people not used to driving rock roads. And it was a long 15 mile an hour, 20, about 25 is about as fast as you got to go. So it was a long drive up this mountain. And we got the last parking spot available, I believe, when we got there, or else we would have been held. It was something to get up there. And then 22 miles back down the hit mountain afterwards.
In the dark.
In the dark. In the high beams weren't working the vehicle.
You mentioned pacers. Where are you allowed to have pacers exactly? Like, I know you said you went through the first 37, and then you linked up with some ladies through the night, but then you mentioned pacers coming in with you. So where could that start?
At Whiskey Row. So mile 75 is when you can pick up your first pacer. And then you get pacers for most of the rest of the race, except for a 13-mile section had to be pacerless. There's endangered, spotted Mexican owls out there. So they limited the amount of people on the trail. So they wouldn't allow pacers in, what is the section? The 13-mile section. Schnebley Hill to Munns Park. Yeah. And then, unfortunately, they wouldn't allow pacers from Wildcat to the finish, which is going up and down Eldon. So everyone had to do that without a pacer. But every other section, pacers, which was fantastic.
Was that new this year? I feel like in the past, I've watching the live stream, there have been pacers on Eldon, or did I just misremember that?
Yeah, this was the first year doing it without pacers. But it was the owls, and I did not even get to see a dang owl.
Because they're endangered.
Must not be that many of them, I guess.
Yeah, no.
Hey, so when do you think the race started to get like real tough for you?
Oh,
Don't say mile 7 when you were talking about those cats. That's a long day if you say that.
the first 37 miles was tough, but I knew it was going to be really hard. Honestly, it started getting hard getting up to Camp Kippa. I didn't know that section was going to be as hard as it was, but honestly, I had a lot of highs and lows in the race. So there were sections that were really difficult, like Mingus, the descent, was probably my biggest. That was probably where I suffered the most from a lack of nutrition, and sleep was starting to get to me, lack of caffeine. So the going down from Mingus, and then I kind of turned it around at Jerome. So there was a lot of ups and downs.
That's mile 107 from Mingus Mountain to 124 in Jerome.
And that's starting to get past the 100-mile mark, which is new for me. So once I got past mile 100, which I would look at my watch occasionally and see like 120. Okay, cool. We're still going though. So I don't know. It was always real. I don't know. It was really tough to get into the mindset of when the race started, because it just kind of always did. But I definitely did have highs and lows.
So when you hit those lows, was there anything you did, or how did you bring yourself back out of them? Did you just wait them out? Like, was there a mental cue you had ready for yourself? Was it just relying on your crew? How'd you get through that?
Sleep was fantastic, and eating. I highly recommend eating a lot to keep your mood up. I didn't get so the things I'm proud of for this race is I never threw up and I never fell. So that means I didn't get too terribly behind on nutrition, but it was enough to where I needed more to keep my energy levels up, especially for big climbs like I was doing, because the descent down Mingus, there still was uphills in the descent. So it's not like you're just descending the whole time to Jerome. You still have uphills to go, and it's exposed. So starting to get sunny and light. So you're getting hot too. So I don't know. There was times I called people. I called Donald, or I just sat and I cried, and my friend Amy just like rubbed my shoulder, and she's like, "It's gonna be fine." And I'm like, "It's fine." And then I sat on a cactus at that point in time and had a nosebleed, and I was like, "This is great. We're doing great here, and we still have so many miles to go to Jerome." And I don't know, it's just kind of humor too, because it's like, of course, there's one cactus on this whole hillside, and I sit on it, and we got to pull it out of my butt to get going. So some humor is involved, and just accepting it. So I don't know. It's running these 200s, I think, is mostly mental. It's not super physical. It is mental, because anyone can just keep walking. 2 miles an hour is what can get you to the finish for this race. Anyone can do that. A lot of mental suffering.
Oh, absolutely.
So Mingus Mountain to Jerome. At Mingus Mountain, she took about an hour nap, and it was pretty restless. And then we kind of sent her out tonight with Amy, and we could not get enough clothes on her. She was shivering and cold. And then we went down to Jerome to meet her, and it's sunny down there and hot. And she came in with everything stripped off of her and just wearing basically her tank top and shorts. And it's just, in 17 miles, that's the temperature change of going from not having enough clothes on to not be able to get enough off of you. That was the wildest swing of the whole race, I think, temperature wise.
Wow. What were the temperatures, like high to low?
I think it got down to in the 30s, and
Fort Tuthill was the coldest because I could see my breath. Fort Tuthill, I had
Yeah, it was
3
cold.
layers on. One of them was like my puffy, and that was really, really cold. That's getting closer to Flagstaff. I'm not sure what the high was.
Say in the 80s, it got just low 80s, I think. It didn't get too hot, but something we learned back in February, we went out for Black Canyon, and I've told several people this. We were sitting on the porch of our Airbnb, and it was like 55 degrees, and the sun started going down. I was like, 55, I'm good in a t-shirt. And the sun went down, and it got down to 50, and I was like, I'm cold. And I had to put a hoodie on and pants on, and we still sat out there. And that 50 degrees out there is different than 50 degrees here. And then, of course, everybody talks about the dry heat. It's just completely different out there. It is just, until you're out there and experience it, it's definitely different feel.
I think the race itself overall could have definitely been hotter. I got really lucky with a cooler year, especially the first 37 miles is typically really, really hot. I think the weekend after we were done the race, Black Canyon City was projected to be at like 100 degrees, I think. And we never saw anywhere near that for the start of the race. It was like in the 70s. It was cloudy, which you don't typically see. So I didn't take for granted the weather that we had, which was really, really excellent.
That's a good year for it then, I guess. Well, one thing that a lot of people may not think about though in a 250-mile race is your electronics, like your watch and other items. How did you go about keeping those charged, or do you have a special watch for this kind of race? I know your experience at the ultras, so let our listeners know a little bit about how you managed all that side of it.
Yeah, so required gear, you have to have lays on you at all times to be able to charge your coordinates, how you get places. So your map, you have to have a map. So my map was on my phone and my watch. So I have to be able to charge both those things. And you also have to be able to charge your headlamp or a waist light, whichever you have. You have to have extra batteries for that. So I prefer a waist light. So I always had extra batteries for that carried with me and a backup headlamp. And then for my phone, I actually credit Emily when I crew and paced her at her 200. She had a MagSafe flat power bank to go on the back of her phone. They're really lightweight and easy to carry. So I have bought 3 of those, put stickers on them so my crew knew which ones. Oh, the one with the panda sticker is the one that needs charged or is charged. Or the one with the vegan sticker needs charged. So making sure that, because if they're all the same color, it's kind of hard to know and easy to mix up. So I always had at least one of those on me. And then with my watch, I have an Enduro 3. Donald got it for me right before the race because he was worried my Phoenix wasn't going to last because the battery life hasn't been great on it. So we got the Enduro 3 and we would bump charge it in the car while I was sleeping a few times. But I think they only did that a couple times, and honestly, it probably wouldn't have needed it.
No, the Enduro 3 did a really good job at Thane Ranch. I think it's the first time we bumped it. So that was like Tuesday night. So 36 hours in, it was at 68%, I think. And we bumped it, and it bumped up to like, I think 86% when she ended up taking off. And then every other time we bumped it, it was like 80%, 70 some percent. I think she might have been able to make it without charging it, but it never, I saw 68 that first time, but we started hitting it a little bit more, but we didn't charge it for 15, 20 minutes or so. We wouldn't charge it very long and bump it enough, but I never saw below 70 after that first time.
Yeah, so we'd bump charge my watch, my phone, and swap out any headlamp or waist light batteries to make sure that those were charged. And I think that was all the electronics that I had.
Well, Alicia, you were the one that was running and moving 250 miles the entire time. But Donald, I want to hear from you. You tell us how you saved the day at least one time. What's something that you did? I want you to take credit for something out there that absolutely saved her day.
Well,
It wasn't food.
Well,
Oh,
well, she says it wasn't food because I made several things for her, stopped and bought food for her, and none of them got 8, unfortunately.
Does a donut sound good? No.
But I had all kind of
Does a
stuff.
sandwich sound good? No.
Yeah.
Same pasta, please.
Yeah, we had a bunch of stuff, but I can't take credit for anything. It's the crew and the people that we put together to help us. The whole week I was stressed. We were all stressed. Emily did a lot of, and we got the spreadsheet in front of us to kind of keep a track of everything. But Emily did a lot of figuring of, pacing and things like that. Alisha laid out an A pace, a B pace, and a C pace, and we're just kind of like see how it goes. We don't know. Alisha and I talked about it before, and she stayed between B and C pace almost the whole week. But sometimes she'd feel good and hit A pace in a section, and then a lot of times and then she'd hit B pace, and then she'd hit below C pace, and we'd start worrying. But Emily did a lot of the figuring throughout the week, and then I know one night Emily was with Alisha, and Jesse and I were trying to figure out pace. Like what time we need to do things and writing things down. And my brain was fried. And I think I looked at Jesse and was like, you got to do this. I can't comprehend this right now.
Donald was really good with taking care of me when I came into aid stations. My feet were a big thing that I needed taken care of because they had a lot of nerve pain and damage done to them. So as soon as I got to the vehicle, the first thing I wanted to do was crawl in the back of that SUV and take off my shoes. So Donald was always right on top of taking my shoes and socks off, wiping my feet down. And he had a whole system of taking care of my feet with lube, tape, taking care of blisters, and massaging my feet so that would take away the nerve pain and get me ready for the next section.
Something that always comes to mind whenever you pace your crew somebody is, for me at least, I give everything to them. Like I would say whatever it takes to get them to the finish line. It's easy when it's Alisha, obviously, but I've crewed and paced other people, and like I would do the same thing for them as I did for her. It's a selfless thing, and you just kind of jump in and do it. And we were lucky enough to have a crew with us that did the same. So it was kind of, my attention was always on Alisha when she was with us, taking care of her feet, getting food, things like that. The other people were packing the hydration pack and everything, running to the aid station to get stuff there. And nobody, questioned anything. It was really a team effort. I can't thank our crew enough for everything that they did. But the feet was definitely a turning point. I told my friend Jordan that how much I tended to her feet, and he asked me to be on his team for Cocodona next year, and I was like, okay. He's got some big feet. I guess I have to bring some extra lube for him. Maybe I don't know, but definitely learned some feet. I definitely upped my feet game on this journey for tending to them.
So, Alisha, was there ever a moment over the course of the several days where you had to rely on Donald to keep you going, like you were ready to call it quits and he got you back out there, or any other moments like that?
I'm really fortunate that I never wanted to call it quits. I wanted to be done the entire time. Cannot tell you how often I said, I just want to be done. I just can't wait to be done at the Airbnb. I want to be done because I didn't want to be in pain anymore. But I never ever thought about quitting. I never thought, okay, when I get to this aid station, I'm just gonna quit. I'm through with this. Never thought that because I've worked really hard to get to that point, and I knew it was gonna suck, and I knew it was gonna hurt. I just figured I'll just complain about it for a little while and figure out. It's all about problem solving. So, and I had a great team with me to help me problem solve. So I knew they would get me to the finish line one way or another. So I never really thought about quitting. I mean, I called Donald for sure on the trail, crying, going up the mountain, like, this is really hard. Get me through this. But it was more of okay, this is a problem solving. We're just going to solve this little problem to get me to the next aid station. It was always, I think throughout the whole week, aid station to aid station. Because if you think about the race as a whole, 200 miles, 250 miles, you're just gonna feel very overwhelmed.
One step at a time.
So aid station to aid station was like the game plan the whole time.
And I never once thought she was gonna quit. Like I knew that wasn't an option, and I knew she wasn't going to. And you could see it. Never saw it in her face that she wanted to quit, and that was something pretty cool. I've told her several times she made it look easy. It might not have been easy, but she did make it look easy. But she never once did I look at her and think she was gonna quit. It's pretty cool.
I think Katie's ready to jump in with a question, but before I let her do that, I want to I don't think I've ever thought about what you said the way you just said it, was that you never wanted to quit, but you couldn't wait to be done. Like I like that really just resonated with me. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been in a race and just thought, I can't wait till this is over, right? And not just because not that I wanted to quit, but I just wanted to be finished, right? So, but I've never put those two things together. I don't know. So I appreciate the way you worded that. That was really good.
Thank you.
I also, as I listened to you talk the last several minutes about how Donald didn't want to take credit for much, but the whole time I was just thinking, he probably doesn't even know how big of a part he played and how important it was that you, Alicia, could call him whenever you were having that hard moment, and just being that, like, emotional support is everything. Because I know I'll be a block away from the house and call Adam crying over not hitting a pace in a random mile workout that I'm trying to do, so
Mhm.
and usually he just tells me to keep running and that it'll work itself out, and it always does. But we all need that, like, emotional support just as much as that physical support. So I loved that you talked about that just a minute ago. However, let's talk about what you learned about yourself through this whole entire experience. Surely the preparing for and running 250 miles is no small feat. So what do you think you take away about some self-reflection?
So that was one of the things that got me really curious about 200 because a lot of people talked about how life-changing it was. And I never really felt that during 100. I always felt empowered during 100 that I did something really badass. This is really cool. And at 200, I wanted that life-changing experience and that journey, and what a privilege it is to be able to train and afford to go out and do such a big race like Cocodona. Um, so I didn't wanna squander that, and I wanted to take away as much as I could from the race. Um, I learned I don't know, I unlocked some more emotional sides of myself during the race. I'm not a very emotional person. Donald cries more than I do. He cried at our wedding and I probably teared up was as much as it got. But during Cocodona, I got so emotional at times. I was on a section with Donald from Jerome, and people were sending him messages to cheer me on, and the Bakers down in New River Gorge, the whole family sent a video to me and cheering me on, and Donald showed it to me, and I just cried saying, "I'm so lucky." Because I felt so lucky during the whole race to have such a support system behind me back home, just people all over cheering me on and watching. And I thought it was really cool to be able to give people something like all week to look forward to and do and look at. And I don't know, I think that's my biggest takeaway is how much support I had, not just at the race, because I felt so loved and supported at the race with my friends there and Donald there, but also people all across the country that I know watching the race and also getting to know each other because then they're connecting with each other in this group chat Donald created. And it was really beautiful to have that kind of support. And even like you guys, like um the group chat, the challenges that I'm on with you guys, the section that I was on by myself from Schnebley Hill to Munns Park, I was like, let's check Strava. I don't need to be checking Strava, but let's go ahead and check. And I saw that you guys were all following along, and I was like, oh my gosh, people are following and cheering me on. I feel so special. It was a really cool feeling, and it really motivated me when I really needed it too. I think I think I learned I'm really well, I knew this already, but it solidified that I'm very much a social runner. I love helping other people when they need it. If someone needed caffeine during the race, I was happy to give it to them. Someone needed water or anything or Tylenol, just I really enjoyed helping other people and meeting other people and connecting with others.
So, if you had one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's considering running Cocodona, what would it be?
Just sign up and just sign up. I mean, if you really want to do it, you'll put in the work that it takes for it and you'll get yourself to the start line. And if you really want that finish, you'll get yourself to the finish. So if you really want it, just do it.
That's good. Hey, I'm going to go back just a second to the Strava challenge you mentioned. That was a challenge that Chris kind of encouraged me to make for everybody. And it was an elevation challenge for the month of May. So it's currently still going on. You are in first place by about 20,000 feet still. And you did, I think, all of your elevation in no more than 6 days, right? And you currently have, I think, more elevation than I have for the entire year so far. So, and that's not a joke. You really do. So amazing work with the elevation challenge. Unless
Thank
Samir
you.
goes out and does 20,000 feet in the next 3 days, I think you got it. Or I guess what,
Yeah,
we still have 7 days, right? But
yeah,
I think
you
you're
could do it.
good. Yeah, he could. But so that's the Strava challenge she was talking about earlier. Let's shift a little bit to you guys and your generosity. You've talked about it a little bit before, but you two spend a lot of time volunteering at races, crewing for people or pacing people. Why is that so important to you, giving back to the running community and just being out there at races?
We love this sport and the community that we surround ourselves with. Like Katie said, surround yourself. What is it? Surround yourself with
You are
Friends
who
make
you
female.
run with.
friends. You are who you run with.
You are who you run with, and it's true. I mean, I know some really badass people and people that take on some really cool challenges, and I want to inspire that in other people. And I love being able to support them in it, especially if it, well, no matter where they are in their, running career, if they're new at it and need the support, or if they've been doing it a while. But it's just a lot of fun to give back into it because it shouldn't be a selfish sport.
Yeah, you are who you run with. That's right. And that is a good way to put it. And some of the people we've met, I mean, we've met a ton of people through this, and there's a handful of guys for sure that would, at a drop of a hat, come to help me, and same to them. But then there's people beyond that that would jump into in a heartbeat. And this race, something that Alicia and I talked about on the course, was like how loved we are, and that just solidifies like needing to give back even more. It's just unreal to think about how much support we had. I had a few people texting me that I didn't have their numbers in my phone. I thought, like, cheering her on. I'm like, I got who? I don't know who this is, but it was overwhelming for sure. The people that came from afar, and you try to think of everybody. I told Alicia while I was making group chats up, I'm like, man, I'm gonna try to think of everybody, but I know I can't, and it's hard. But it's just great to give back. And I've had a few people at aid stations through the years help me get through a moment, and hopefully we do the same for somebody while we're running the aid station. Try to make it fun and enjoyable for people, and maybe take a little bit of pain out of the moment, I guess, and give them something to smile about.
Doing big races like this really fills my cup. At least this one really did. And it's a lot of people get depressed after races. And I was really looking forward to just recovering and not running so much and just enjoying the recovery and thinking about, okay, what's next? But it also really energized me for crewing and pacing and going and supporting other friends. We have Amy, she was on our team, and she's doing Mohican 100 miler. So we're going to go out and cheer her on. And hopefully, she got energized by Cocodona, and we can bring that energy back to her for her 100. And it's just really fun to keep that energy up. And it really fills up our cups. And I hope it fills up others too.
We went to a race this weekend. We knew one person at, and just cheered. We went on the course and just cheered people on, and Alicia turned around, looked at me one time, and she's like, "I just love this." And I was like random people, like giving fist bumps to people, and just we just got, I don't know, just filled her cup for the weekend for sure.
The only time I get emotional is at a race when someone's about to finish and they're just working so hard to get to the finish line. You can tell they're in pain. We're like, you can do it. You're doing great. And it's just so uplifting. I love it.
Chris, do you have a story from what was that, Cacapen 12 hour about Donald and Alicia helping you?
Oh, I mean, not only at Cacapen, but Fire on the Mountain, like they've just been an amazing presence out there. And just to have someone you're not necessarily expecting to be there cheering you on, offering you support, like it's just awesome. I have appreciated it, and feel blessed to have gotten to know you all through those races. And, I think because of those experiences, I've become more invested in following your training and following your racing and all that. And, we've probably only met each other like 2 or 3 times in person, but I feel like we're pretty good virtual friends, from that training perspective. And I think actually the first time I met you was at Highland Sky.
Mhm.
It was at the finish of the race, and we kind of just were walking past each other, and I'm like, "Wait, you're
Yep.
Alicia." So yeah, no, I appreciate it, and like I've told some guests in the past, I take so much away from the training you do, how invested you are in the community, and I just appreciate it. I hope you realize how much of an influence you're having on the local running community here.
I hope so. That's what we want.
Yeah, they both volunteer and help out at Fire on the Mountain. They've done that the last 2 years, right? And they've done a great job with the Hawaiian themed aid station, which has been amazing. And last year at Cacapen, I was running the 12-hour challenge, and at one point I sat down and Alicia came over and she basically made me eat stuff, and then they took off my socks and shoes, and I was like, I don't know why they're doing this, but they're doing it. And they like changed my socks and shoes for me. And then during the race, I was going back and forth, and Donald helped me out. Coach, what's his last name? Harmon?
It's
Heyman?
Coach Harmon, AJ Harmon. You guys were
Okay, yeah, so
battling out
yeah,
all day.
Yeah, AJ. So I'm going back and forth with AJ, and then he tells me at one point that like his buddy Donald is pacing him, and I'm just like, oh shit, there goes my chance at beating this guy. Because when Donald gets on the course, he's not gonna let him like give up at all. So I was trying to hold you both off that day after I knew that you were gonna pace him. So
That was a fun
yeah,
day.
yeah,
That's fun.
that was a good day. But yeah, so I appreciate all of the help that you give us at Fire on the Mountain, and then anytime, and we saw you at Cape, and we didn't even know you guys were going to be there that day. So that was really really cool to have you there, and then yeah, just awesome having you guys out there, and I really appreciate everything. And congrats on Cocodona. That is
Thank you.
just yeah amazing to me. So yeah, great job on that.
Thank you.
I will mention Alicia got a shout out last. Alicia's been shout out several times on this podcast between getting us started on Miners Lady and then last week whenever we were talking about running in the heat, I talked about how you dumped or like dipped my towel and got I and filled it with ice in that ice bucket, and it was like the best thing ever. So
Oh, life
um
changing.
Like, yeah.
yes, yes, definitely. Things you don't think about when you're not as experienced. So that's another thing you're bringing to the table for other people is just your experience, and then we can learn a little bit from you too. But speaking of your experience, where do you think it's taking you next? What's up next for you guys?
So in the immediate, so I'm just enjoying recovery right now, but I did sign up for West Virginia Trilogy, the full trilogy, which is down in Spruce Knob area. It is a 50K on Friday, 50 miler on Saturday, and half marathon on Sunday. I've always wanted to do it, and I've heard such great things. It's done by the same people that do Highland Sky, which you guys know that we absolutely love, and I know Katie absolutely loves.
My favorite race.
We don't talk about Highland
Um,
Sky.
you can come do the half at Spruce Knob. I hear it's such a great time. Everyone camps up there, and the food's really good. I've heard nothing but good things. So I feel like now that I've done Cocodona, I can do Trilogy. But it's always kind of been at a weird time. So finally can go do that this year. And then Donald has 100 later on this year at No Business 100.
That's awesome. Yeah. When is No Business? Is that in October?
That's the weekend before Fire on the Mountain. So
Okay.
it starts on a Friday. It's a Friday start. So it's going to be a little different. So we're hoping it's the same weekend as Run the River, which we hate to miss. So I'm hoping to run No Business, finish on Saturday, and then boogie back up to New River Gorge and cheer some people onto the finish line, maybe volunteer a little bit with their sleep.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But I ain't gonna promise anything to anybody, but we'll see.
I have a good feeling you're gonna end up pacing somebody on Saturday night.
That's a possibility. We'll see.
Hey guys, well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your evening. Alicia, I'm glad that recovery is going well. And same thing with you, Donald. I know it is hard to recover from crewing and pacing for the same amount of time that she was out there. So hopefully you've had a couple stress-free weeks since the race. And I think I'll just leave it with Katie's famous saying of you are who you podcast with, right? So thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode of Tales on the Towpath. Thanks for joining us on another run down memory lane and along the C&O. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep your pace steady and your stories flowing.